to the view, every angle on you, from the sweat on your face to the roar in the blue. Welcome to the view, every second rings true. Sit back, lean in, yeah, enjoy the view.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome live to Croke Park Studios for the latest episode of The View. As always, brought to you by our friends at Allianz. It is mid-term, which means in studio, one thing. Marc O'Shea has hightailed it across the country to get a few quid. He's going to give us the Kerry angle on all the weekend's action. And joining us in studio, as well as Marc, is our latest addition to the GDA Plus team, basking in the glow of a 100% record continued yesterday for his native Donegal. It's, of course, Patrick McBrearty, lads. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Paddy.
Marc, the last time we were chatting, we were wondering how you had become an inter-county manager. You were taking over the Kerry Miners. But to your credit, in the last couple of weeks, you've had a massive win in the Kearney-Veree with Tralee CBS. How did that go?
Yeah, we have. We beat Clonmel in the Munster final. So it's been all go, Paddy. It's between the Miners and the school. We're out every night of the week, to be totally honest with you. But it's all good. It's great for the school to have won the Munster. I haven't won it since 2020. So it was nice to get that one, and All-Ireland semi-final now against the winners of Connacht, so we're waiting for that game to be played.
A couple of weeks' time, or what's the schedule?
A couple of weeks' time, and we'll see. We won't look too far ahead, but it's now where you can start maybe dreaming 60 minutes, or the chances of being 60 minutes from a match in Croke Park, a final in Croke Park, so looking forward to the semi-final.
The managerial side of things is going all right for Marc, and then thanks for joining us today as well. So with that, we will look at Division 1 first and foremost with a full schedule of games. Big game on Saturday night in Tralee in really tough conditions. We've seen an incredible comeback, not the only game of the weekend where there was a big swing with Galway coming from 12 points down to earn a draw. Just outside, Dublin finally got the result they needed with picking up 2 points with their 4-point win over Monaghan. As mentioned yesterday in Letterkenny, the big game in Division 1, top of the table clash, and Donegal had far too much for Andy Moran's Mayo. And maybe the surprise of the weekend, Rosscommon picking up another victory in the Hyde against an out-of-sorts Armagh. Kieran McGeeney had some comments after that match, which we will get to. But all in all, a full schedule and some very interesting storylines as always. I suppose first place to start, guys, will be that top-of-the-table clash yesterday in Letterkenny. Paddy, Donegal look, fair to say, they're probably the strongest team so far over the first 3 weekends of the National League, and a commanding display yesterday.
100%. I think Jim and the lads will be very happy with the way the league has gone so far. Probably for the first 50 minutes, second half, is probably the only negative of yesterday's performance, but very, very impressive. They're starting to get some of the more experienced lads back, and some of the younger lads are getting bled into the setup as well. So all positive from Donegal's point of view.
Do they look, Donegal always, their conditioning is always top of the class, to be fair, throughout the season, but they look like they're miles ahead of teams at the minute. Was it a heavy off-season for the guys? Did they take any break from after last season's championship?
They definitely took a break, yeah. Listen, they went off to, obviously, Mexico for 10 days, but I think it's a cumulative kind of 3 year, years worth of work, so probably they're just hitting their peak now. So, they've really, obviously Jim pushes things hard, but they've a really good guy in terms of Anton McFadden there as head of performance, so, the lads are really getting the benefit of that.
You mentioned there, Marc, just thrown to you on this, we've seen the second half against Kerry a couple of weeks ago as well, where Donegal, they're starting games really, really strongly. Even in Dublin, the first night here outside in Croke Park, a little bit of a drop-off in the second half. You mentioned it, Paddy. Is there anything Jim McGuinness to be worried about there, or is it, look, it's just the game is kind of won by that stage?
Game is won by that stage. I wouldn't look into that, Paddy. I think I'd agree with Paddy. I think they're the top-class team at the moment in Division 1 by a long shot. That consistency that they have, they were very impressive again yesterday. And you're looking at every line of the field, they just have quality. Look at Young Rorty, what he's doing. Just the energy, the fitness levels of this team. And like with the condensed season now, 6 months, you're not looking at fellas trying to get them up, and you've Michael Murphy togging off even yesterday, coming off the bench. Probably not his razor sharp self, but it's good to see him back in the jersey again. But Donegal would be very happy the way they are at the moment.
Yeah, we were talking obviously young stars in the Kearney-Veree, and obviously with your minor team as well. Paddy, you're only out the door 2 minutes, and as Jim McGuinness unearthed another young superstar, Conor McCahill, a Leaving Cert student yesterday, as if Donegal don't have enough riches up front. Is your replacement in already?
Maybe. Listen, no, definitely Conor, he made his full league debut yesterday. Anyone within Donegal would have heard of Conor over the last couple of years. You know, he's definitely a talent. I think he's still only 18. He's in Abbey Vocational School in Donegal Town. So, you know, delighted for him. Really good, really nice young fella. He's so raw. You know, you're looking at a young fella out there, and as a forward, every time he gets the ball, he looks like he wants to shoot straight away. You know, and obviously he's a cute dog like myself. But no, listen, he's definitely one for the future. And you know, as I say, there's a crop of young lads coming up there, especially in the Four Masters Club in Donegal Town. They're big futures ahead of them.
Yeah, we were chatting off air about this. Like, Donegal they're not winning McBrearty Cups on the school side, they're not dominating Ulster minors or Ulster under-20s, but you look at what's come through in the underage. Kieran Moore, Rorty, we said, this guy is a superstar. And the latest guy is, what's happening in the underage system in Donegal where they're unearthing these guys?
Well, I suppose Carl Lacey started the academy maybe 6-7 years ago. He would have taken a lot of these lads through when maybe they were 14, 15. They haven't won the Ulster Championships like Tyrone at under-20 level, but Tyrone have had to beat Donegal on the way to win those, you know, and they've only beaten them by a point or two here and there after extra time. So Donegal have been close to winning those Ulsters, but they haven't the medals to show for it. And I suppose for all the talk about Tyrone and all they've won, Donegal haven't been far behind them. But Donegal are producing very, very good individual players.
Like what you said just makes total sense. It doesn't matter if you're not winning those underage competitions. Once you're keeping that conveyor belt,
setting yourself up for the Kerry Riders. Can we clip that?
Just to give myself an excuse. But it
doesn't matter if you don't win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it does. Once you have that conveyor belt going, and if you're producing 2 players a season, that's massive for you know, Jim McGuinness. If you and look at this guy, he was outstanding yesterday, getting on the end of scores and making it almost look easy. I know we look at Dara Canavan's scores later on, but making it almost look easy, having the space to kick those balls over the bar with the left leg. Outstanding talent.
Natural quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Andy Moran obviously spoke on the Mayo side of things. They got off to a brilliant start with their first 2 wins out of 2. Yesterday, he wasn't overly concerned. They're still in a really strong position, Mayo. But there was a bit of a gulf there yesterday, and he alluded to Donegal just being a bit further down the tracks in terms of their development. Obviously, year 3 under Jim, and he's only in a couple of months. Yeah. Have we seen enough from Mayo? Look where they are on the table. They're in a really strong position still to potentially make a league final. It's been a positive start for them so far, despite yesterday, hasn't it?
It has, and Andy has brought that freshness, and they're sitting pretty there on third, joint with Rosscommon, top with Rosscommon. But yeah, I think Andy has done a good job. But look, from a Mayo point of view, my initial thoughts are the inside line. Who's your go-to scorer? Who's the guy who's going to get this 7 or 8 points for you for a game? And like, I don't see it at the moment. I know Ryan O'Donoghue, he's kind of has more of a kind of a pulled out role in that middle 8. But you know, when you're looking for an inside line, you don't have a Tommy Conroy. Who's the guy who's going to get you those scores? You look at the top teams in the country. They all have that danger guy inside. The Dara Canavans, the Cons, the David Cliffords. I don't think Mayo have one of those guys at the moment.
He alluded to it after the Dublin game, and they weren't after a strong performance. They won that game comfortably, but the need for nearly 20 points isn't enough to win games. You probably have to get to 25 points these days, and that is a big question mark. Always has been around Mayo. But Paddy, you noticed something yesterday, just in terms they're trying to play this aggressive style of play, which we all like to see in terms of direct kick pass and trying to move the ball quickly. But it probably didn't work out for them yesterday.
No, definitely not. I was sitting back watching the game, and obviously Andy's made the point that he's going to be kicking the ball more, but there's sometimes when you get to the, you know, you get to the ground, obviously Mayo were with a strong breeze in the first half, you know, fair enough, for the first couple of minutes you're in the hotel before the game, you're saying we're going to kick the ball from here, you know, and listen, for the first 3 or 4 balls, their attack wasn't clicking right, and maybe it's for the old heads, the experienced lads, to maybe get the ball, run the play, run the clock, just take a bit of the sting out of it. And the more this went on, Donegal were just getting the ball and taking the ball up the field for 2 minutes, and they was really running the clock down. And then Mayo started then to probably panic then, because they knew they were with a strong breeze in the first half, and the game was probably getting away from them.
Isn't there a bit of kind of know your audience there? If you're playing Donegal, and obviously now you've been in that for so long, if you give Donegal the ball, you're going to be working very, very hard for a long period of time to get it back. Was that a bit nearly Andy saying he'll know that, obviously, but I still want to try this and try and work on that, use the National League for games and for those players to learn that from yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I think Mayo would have learned more from that game yesterday than Donegal. I think, you know, Andy would have been going down the road with more, questions. They've something to work on Tuesday, whereas Donegal probably didn't overly learn anything, more than what they've done this year.
Yeah, but some of those clips there are really poor. Like,
Poor.
I mean, like the needless giving that ball away. I mean, Ryan O'Donoghue almost killed Diarmuid O'Connor there at one stage with a hand pass, and I think Andy will probably sit these guys down and look at this, because Donegal can play it everywhere. Slow ball, they can, when the ball needs to be direct, and Mayo are probably lacking that, but certainly there's huge room for improvement from Mayo.
Yeah, but one of the other big games in Division 1 yesterday, we see in the table there, sitting pretty in second place. Bit of a surprise in Hyde Park. The Rossies coming out on top against Kieran McKeely's Armagh. It was Valentine's weekend, no love lost between the two sets of players yesterday. But the Rossies, it's a brilliant win for them, Marc. Dermot Murtagh in particular, 1-7 yesterday. He's been one of the top forwards in the country
he's class.
for the last few years. Dara Craig, they seem to unearth these forwards.
Yeah, and like I've always been, I suppose, critical of Rosscommon, that they're kind of like a yo-yo. I've always found it hard to stay in Division 1. They'd get promoted, and look at that for a score. That's outstanding off the left boot. He had some game yesterday. Armagh will be disappointed with that goal, but I mean, look, when this guy's in such form, like 3 or 4 Armagh defenders there, really disappointed from their point of view. And look at the time and the space that he has there to get that shot off, Paddy. Another 2-pointer there again. And when they needed to get the goals in, they got the goals, but Diarmuid Murtagh was outstanding.
Quality, isn't he?
Yeah, and I know we'll get to the kickouts, and I spoke already about inside forwards. When you have a forward of that calibre, it's hard to stop him.
You mentioned it on the kickouts, and Kieran McGeady, as his style, gave a great quote yesterday. It's nearly like piggery out around the middle third. It's these 50-50 battles. I think lots of coaches are probably getting frustrated, having spent years building up these nuanced tactical kickouts, whereas now it's just a case of launch the ball out long, and that was the real battleground yesterday. Whoever was on top was making hay, and you've some clips over here, Paddy.
Yeah, I heard Kieran's comments about the piggery. There was a big contrast now. I think the two keepers in the Donegal Mayo game, Rob Henley and Gavin Mulroney, gave probably an exhibition in the kicking. There doesn't seem to be any kind of innovation here from Armagh. They just seemed to, the short kick out was closed down by Rosscommon, and I think just Armagh just seemed to overload one side, and obviously that's just that's a 50-50 ball. That ball's in the air there. Whoever's on the unlucky side of the ball gets it there. But I think there was a big difference in the quality of the kickouts from Henley and Mulroney to what we saw there yesterday in the Hyde.
You can't get away from the wind as well. We've seen 4 or 5 massive swings. Once Armagh had the breeze in the second half, Andrew Murnan, who's been a bit of a revelation out on the middle third, they got on top again. They obviously had Ross McQuillan's goal, which was, we don't have a clip of it there, but it was disallowed for a breach. That would have brought it right back. Armagh had all the momentum, but it is something we're seeing in all the games. If you can get that dominance in the middle third, it's critical.
You really see it if there's a strong breeze there. You really see the opposition putting that high press, going after the opposition. And as Paddy alluded to there wasn't much science behind it. It was just overloading one side and getting the breakers in there. I know there's plenty of managers who were talking about breaking ball, and I suppose just the hunger to win those breaking balls, and we see how important it is. Kickouts is everything in the game now.
Yeah.
And just a quick one on Armagh before we move on to the next games. They're the highest point scorers across all 4 divisions, but they've conceded the most goals. And I think in all 3 of their games they've had 15-20 minute periods where they're really on top, and that athleticism and that power. But there's a bit of frustration from Kieran McGeady, you feel, that they're not putting it together. Is that fair?
Yeah, listen, I suppose the conversion rate for Kieran would be the big one, But just going back to the kickouts, like Marc alluded to, it is everything. 60 to 7% of teams' analysis now is on the opposition kickout and their own kickouts. So if Armagh want to progress within the Ulster Championship and the All-Ireland, they need to really hone in on this. It
is, because you go back to the All-Ireland quarter-final last year, it's something Kerry really focused in on, was the Armagh kickouts, and that's where Kerry got all the success. Yep. And it was the platform that Kerry drove on in that second half period where the game was still in the balance, and that's where Kerry drove on. And I mean, Armagh,
they made the change in goal as well. Is
that
that possibly related back to Ethan Rafferty? Obviously, that third quarter, Blaine Hughes is the man who's been in net so far. Ethan Rafferty's been playing outfield in a couple of games as well.
Yeah, but I mean, at this stage, it looks as though he's going with Blaine Hughes, so Rafferty might probably be considered as an outfield player in some role, a cameo, but I think it's important that he does stick with the goalkeeper and just go with it, but it appears as though he's going with Blaine Hughes.
Something to keep an eye on anyway. Saturday night was another marquee game in horrendous conditions down in Tralee, Marc. Kerry shades of last year, that league
Yeah,
against
yeah,
Dublin,
exactly,
where they raced into a massive lead,
Yeah.
12 points up against Galway. But Pádraig Joyce's men, they showed that steel again.
They did.
Was it
And-
Galway coming back or Kerry contriving to switch off a bit?
I'd say a bit of both. You have to give Galway great credit. I think they really, when pressure was on in the second half, they really pushed it. They got a few 2-pointers to get them back into the game. What we have to realise as well, it was such a strong breeze there. And I think Kerry,
This man, Shane McGrath.
Yeah, Shane McGrath was outstanding. And especially when Finnerty was being well tied by Jason Foley, Matthew Tierney as well. He had a great game in that second half period. And I suppose Kerry, before they knew it, Galway were back in the game. And as you said, Paddy, it was shades of last year where Dublin, it was a game of two halves. And the clip, though, that really sums it up is this next one here where John Maher, watch him taking off here from Evan Looney. Look at Maher on the left-hand side going, my God. And Kerry defenders just can't get him. And what a finish.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see that, aren't we? The big players are starting to come back. He's a massive plus. Pádraig Joyce obviously confirmed, big talking point afterwards. Paul Conroy has committed, a former footballer there. He will be playing this year. Pádraig Joyce is probably a little maybe less optimistic about two of the other stalwarts.
He was, yeah, Damien Comer and Shane Walsh. But
comments.
He was right. Pádraig Joyce was right. I mean, you can't be basing your whole team around these two guys who, over the last few years, have been injured a lot. And you go back to the year that they played Kerry in the All-Ireland final. Comer, outstanding in the semi-final. Walsh, outstanding in the final. Have we seen the two of them ever together gel as a unit? We haven't. And I think if you're putting all your bread into one basket, I think you're in trouble. So I think Joyce is dead right what he said. I'd say there was a bit of frustration in what he said. But going forward, you're looking at the likes of Finnerty, who is your main forward now. And good to see other forwards there getting the scores when he was tied down.
On that, Paddy, like we mentioned, Rob Finnerty's been outstanding. He's really stood up in the absence of the guys with injuries and things like that. Shane Walsh, we've seen a bit more of him this season. Damien Comer, I'm not sure on his return to play, but when Finnerty's shackled by Jason Foley, Jason Foley's one of the best man markers in the game, does that show the need that Galway still do need to have that supporting cast and if the guys get back? Of course. Listen, Finnerty, he was an all-star, maybe it was 2 years ago. He is a top player, but I suppose, like everything, the analysis and everything goes in. Oppositions do try and nail down the opposition main man. And Finnerty's going to get the best man marker that whoever they play each week. But Joyce there, just going by his comments at the weekend, he probably is putting all his eggs in the basket with the boys he has, and if he gets the other three lads back, it's probably a massive bonus. So he's probably looking to the likes of Johnny Maher, Rob Finnerty and these lads, Matthew Tierney, to say, listen, boys, this is your team now. If we get the other three lads back, we'll be going well.
Thompson either, he's a big loss. He was outstanding last year.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and I think that, I think Galway will still have a say. I think there's too much quality there. I think that, you don't just become a bad team overnight. And I think, if you look at the game, Joyce will take huge benefit. That was a good point for
the
Galway.
win in Armagh only a couple of weeks before was a real battle, and you could see the reaction after that. Moving on to the other game in Division 1 just outside here on Saturday night, bit of a slow horse race between Dublin and Monaghan. Dubs finally picked up their first win under Ger Brennan with a late goal by debutant Joe Quigley. Monaghan, we said this on last week's show, whoever lost this game would really be facing down the barrel of relegation. Did we learn anything new or anything different? Have the Dubs raced back into the All-Ireland race after Saturday night? It was probably a low-quality game.
It was. I'm not sure about that now. I think that it was low quality. In fairness, Con delivered again when he needed to. But from a Monaghan point of view, I think it just makes next weekend a huge battle for them now, where they have to get points on the board. I think they have Mayo. And that for me, if I'm Bannigan and I'm in, that's the game where you're really targeting, because they have been disappointing.
Chances to win that game. I think that was his frustration.
It is, and if you look at Division 1, you look at say the top 8 teams in Division 1. I think there's maybe there's even a kind of a gap in those 8 teams. I think you're looking at maybe 3 top teams, and then there's another gap. And I think Monaghan definitely fall into that category.
Paddy, Ger Brennan spoke, obviously kind of caught headlines after the defeat to Mayo and Castlebar, where he was targeting some of the older players and demanding Dublin need to find new blood. We've seen a couple of examples of that on Saturday night, most notably in goal with Hugh O'Sullivan, the young Ballybowden goalkeeper, and as I mentioned, Joe Quigley from Kilmacud Crokes with a stunning finish. There was lots of goal chances in this game. I think both defences have a lot to work on, but Any positives with the new Dublin blood that we're looking for?
Yeah, obviously, listen, young O'Sullivan there, he is big boots to fill, and I suppose Dublin are kind of crying out for this goalkeeper now. They've obviously been blessed with Stephen Cluxton for the last 20 years, probably spoiled, but obviously, listen, he did very well there on Saturday night, but some of the finishing from Monaghan is probably going to be the main talking point there on Tuesday night when they go back to training. But I suppose this is the big moment in the game. Stephen O'Hanlon tried to go on a solo run, which he's very, very good at. And I suppose in the modern game, when you turn the ball over in between the two 45s, you're going to be punished. And it's a great finish there into the hill. So that was the big score of the game, and ultimately got Dublin the 2 points.
Important win for Dublin, an important win for that group, most certainly for Ger Brennan and those guys. Looking on to Division 2, always probably the most interesting division, some big results. Meath, the Royal Renaissance continues with Jack Flynn, Ryder Rovers again for the second week running with a 2-pointer at the death to beat Louth in a repeat of last year's Leinster final. Feisty enough affair in St. Conleth's Park on Saturday night. Kildare coming up just short against Derry. Couldn't win a main game for about 2 years, and they've gone back-to-back Derry, so a brilliant win for them and Kieran Meena's men. Cork are 3 from 3, 100% record. They took care of Offaly. And yesterday in the televised game, Tyrone put Cavan to the sword rather comfortably. A bit disappointed with Cavan, I think we were saying off air there. But Division 2 makes it, as every season, really, really competitive. Teams trying to get the promotion and then also trying to avoid the drop into the Tailteann Cup. Joining us to discuss this, as well as our two distinguished guests in studio, we have Westmeath great John Heslin. John, how's the form? Thanks for joining us.
Paddy, all good. How are you lads? How are things in the studio today?
You're working there from the Farmer's Journal, I'd say, yeah.
On your lunch break. We won't keep you long, John, don't worry. Listen, we'll start with a repeat of last year's Leinster final, John. As I said, Valentine's night on Saturday, but there was no love lost. 4 black cards after 10 seconds. It's fair to say Meath and Louth straight up don't like each other.
Yeah, the lads were getting close to each other, all right. They were getting close to each other for Valentine's, but I think it started well. I think it gave the crowd a bit of excitement and something to look forward to the game.
And in terms of the finish, John, as well, look, at half-time Meath seemed to be, we've seen this across a number of games, they were 10 or 11 points up, really dominant, but credit to Gavin Devlin and those Louth players, most notably, look, Samuel Roy, Craig Lennon, these guys. Louth have had a disappointing start results-wise, but is that second half enough to give them confidence, even though they ultimately do fall up short?
Yeah, I think certainly there was a trend across the game over the weekend around the leads that teams had. I think that, that kind of 11, 12-point lead can kind of be a little bit misleading, particularly with the 2 points. We saw it across the divisions. We saw it with Barry McNulty, with Leitrim, as well, coming on and kicking 6 2-pointers. And look, I think I saw Louth the World Cup. I've seen them a couple of times throughout the league. They're improving as every game goes on, but I think we wanted to lay down Marc in that game, and I think that'll really help them for the year going forward, particularly in the championship, and assume they'll be beating Louth again.
And a shout out to Jack Flynn. Obviously, you were one of the great long-range shooters, and this man, he has some boot on him, and for the second week running after the heroics in Breffni Park the week before to beat Cavan, he comes up with a massive 2-pointer for me to, like I say, keep that record going. He has the confidence to take it on, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You do it once, and everyone will give you the compliments. But when you do it back to back, he obviously did it against Cavan, and we'll do it again. Look, he's had a great campaign with the club as well. Excellent kicker for a big man, off the ground, out of the hands. So it's no surprise to see him to kick that one. I think I heard it on the podcast you're on as well, that there was a bit of snow coming down on that one. He really put it up into the sky and dropped over. So really key skill to have, Paddy, with the new rules, and they're certainly leveraging Jack Flynn in the middle of the field.
Dead right, John, and great podcast as well. Paddy, throw to you, Robbie Brennan. Look, he's been one of the stories, the Meath Renaissance over the last 12 to 18 months. Again, he was obviously in flying form after the game. He's joking with the media, we're here to amuse. But some brilliant comments, particularly around Jack Flynn. It's like, whatever Jack wants to do, we let him do. And talking about just the framework he puts on the team, that anyone can go out and just play. It's probably rare. It's a bit of breath of fresh air as a forward. Is that something you want to hear from your managers? Jim McGuinness would have been very like that, I'm sure.
No, there would have been stricter rules than that there. But no, listen, definitely as a forward, you probably want to play the game in your own terms. But I suppose the more you go up into the top echelon of teams, the there'd be more restrictions on you, you know, in terms of your positioning and the shots you can take, you know, in the different areas of the field. But, you know, listen, Meath are on a high at the minute. Obviously, they were in a All-Ireland semi-final last year, and we beat them that day. But, you know, listen, there's probably a bit of pressure on Meath. You know, they probably are the
There's expectation now.
Expectation now on Meath. You know, they came in as the dark horse last year. You know, within their dressing room, they probably need to be thinking we need to win Leinster here, because if we don't win it this year, you know, it could be another few years before we win one.
And if we look at, I suppose, the other surprise, maybe not a surprise, at the start of Division 2, a lot of people were saying it's going to be Tyrone and Derry to come back up. Meath have started very strongly. And Marc, your neighbours, Cork, are 3 from 3 with their win against Offaly. They play Meath this weekend in a top of the table clash. But for Cork, John Cleary in particular, there's always been that demand for consistency. Are we starting to see that from Cork? Are they moving up the gears?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's the area where I've been critical of them, is having that consistency. We'd see one win and then maybe a loss. So, like, that's key. And I think you mentioned it yourself there, Meath coming into town next weekend. You've the likes of Colin Corkery there talking about Sherlock as the go-to player for Cork now. When you're somebody like Corkery saying that, it's a huge compliment. But look, where they're sitting pretty there in the top, and like that's what I was saying, like next weekend's game, Cork and Meath, I grew up watching these two teams, the two best teams in the country.
90s,
and like, my God, those two teams, 87, 88, 89, 90, incredible teams, the likes of Stephen O'Brien and Colm O'Rourke, all these guys. And I think Robbie Brennan has done a great job. John Cleary's doing a great job. Both of them are bringing this team to a new level now. And I can't wait for next weekend's game. But getting back to Cork, it is about having that consistency. And, you know, they have a few players to come back into the team yet.
John, how do you see that game going? You look at both those teams. Nobody probably would have expected both of those teams to be sitting pretty at the top of the table after 3 rounds. You feel probably whoever wins that is in a really, really strong position to get to the top division.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a key game for promotion tie, but I'm really looking forward to the midfield battle. I think Colm O'Callaghan's a great player for Cork. He got 2-1 against Offaly. He had a great championship last year for Cork as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him go up against Jack Flynn. Or what way does that turn out? But I think that, as the guys have said in the studio already, the midfield battle in the middle third will have a lot to say that game. But you'd expect whoever wins that to go through. But it'll really open up for Derry and Tyrone underneath them then as well. So it's something really to look forward to next game.
Yeah, and I suppose speaking about Derry, that, like I say, they'd struggled to pick up any points over the last 14, 15 months. But Ciara, I mean, after that win against Tyrone, they went to Newbridge on Saturday night against Brian Flanagan's Kildare team. We've had a really good start. Brilliant win for Derry, Paddy, without Conor Glass sent off in probably innocuous enough circumstances at the start of the game. But what did you make of that performance from Derry, and are they starting to really turn the corner and get a bit of momentum now?
They are definitely. I suppose at the start of the year, their main objective would have been to get out of Division 2, but you know, that was a really gritty performance there on Saturday night down in Newbridge, losing their key man, one of their 2 key men, Shane McGuire. Well, Conor Glass is, you know, one of their top 2 key men. You know, I didn't see it until last night. A fairly ridiculous red card.
Poor call,
very poor. But you know, to come back from that then and take the win was a massive. And there was a clip going on Instagram of the Derry supporters clapping the team in. So you know they're on the crest of a wave there now at the minute, and they should be looking at getting promoted now and making the league final.
Yeah, like you
Your
say,
side, Marc, yeah. In terms of that momentum behind it, they're on the wrong side of so many 1 or 2 point defeats last year. They finally break their duck against major rivals in Tyrone. Do they have that bit of momentum, Marc?
I think so. Like, and I think like you don't become a bad team overnight. And I think the quality that they have, particularly when you've an inside forward like McGuigan, and like for Glass to get the red card at the start of the game, poor decision, like I said. But like at one stage they were down to 12 players. And to come through that battle, especially against a team like Brian Flanagan's Kildare, who were pushing. Like, I mean, we've seen Dublin come back into the pack. We see Meath, Kildare, they're pushing on now. And I think, you know, when you look at other teams, the likes of Offaly, who are really depleted at the moment. So Cork were going to win that game yesterday. Derry are definitely back, I think, and those 2 wins on the road, it's about momentum. He's going to see that Mina, and you know they're going to have a big year, I think.
Yeah. I suppose the other piece of momentum from yesterday, Tyrone were probably favourites across the board for everyone to top this division and get promoted back. A little bit of a slower start than Malik O'Rourke would have liked, but to be fair, yesterday in Healy Park in Armagh, they were comfortable winners, and no surprise, Derek Cavan, one of the stars of the championship the last couple of seasons. He was to the fore for Tyrone yesterday.
Yeah, listen, he's probably one of the top forwards in the country. But as we were saying off air here, you know, Marc was picking out the mark in here. It's too loose, it's too loose. You know, you've Derek Cavan, you need to go man to man everywhere on him, and as you see here through some of the clips, it's too loose. He's too much space. 1 yard's too much for this man, and
how good is he?
He's up there. He's up there with he's in the top 5 forwards in the country. There's no doubt about that. But Marc's looking at the defending here from Cavan, and
they're probably trying to defend the arc, and I get that. But you can't let this guy, with a player with such quality, give him that space. And not alone that one. Look at this one here, where he's not been tracked at all there.
Yeah.
And look at that. Look, anyone would kick the ball over the bar from that position. So Dermot McCabe, he'll be really disappointed with that. Look again here, not picked up, handy score again. So. Look, it's good to see him. Listen to his dad last night talking about he's going after Turkey or Australia or wherever, but it's good to see him performing like that. But I mean, it's easy to get some of those scores when the defending was so poor by Cavan. Dermot McCabe will be looking at that video, and I think these guys really need to up at Cavan.
A very good gag by his dad Peter on TV last night. But that is a bit of a surprise, isn't it? I think everyone was taken aback by that just as Tyrone kick into gear, this man kicks into gear. He's heading away for 5 weeks. That's surprising.
It was obvious that it was something that was planned, you know, but he's going to be a huge loss for Tyrone, particularly when you're down Division 2, you know what I mean? You want to get back up to Division 1, particularly a team like Tyrone. So minus the services of Derek Cavan for the remainder of the National League, that's a bit of a loss, all right, for their promotion hopes.
Yeah, and I suppose that wraps up Division 2. We'll move quickly on to Division 3 as well and look through some of the results. Like I say, a top-of-the-table clash on Saturday night in Páirc Esler, and Conor Laverty's Down picked up a big win for themselves and put themselves in a really strong position to get promoted back to Division 2. Another big swing in that they were 10 or 11 points up against Westmeath, who wrestled it back but came up just short. Laois picked up a comfortable win over Sligo. It was Clare with a couple of late goals to win on the road up against Fermanagh. I suppose the surprise, Wexford, who had started the division so strong, they came up short out in Rathkeale against Limerick. John, you're having some technical difficulties there. There's no Wi-Fi down in Mullingar, I believe. Are you back with us?
I'm here. If you can hear me all right, Paddy, apologies. I don't know. I think that might be a little bit better now. But I'm in the Farmer's Journal here over in Bluebell, so not too far away from me. But a bit disappointed at the weekend. Obviously, Westmeath going down against Down. Down started very strong. We've always had good battles with Down over the last number of years, but on the positive for Westmeath, finished very strongly and actually could have won the game. But a lot of improvement needed for Westmeath. I think something that would stand out for me, and didn't get to mention some of the other games that you were talking about. Tyrone, all 6 forwards scored. 10 out of the top 11 scored. For Westmeath, only one starting player forward scored from play. So that's something that Westmeath, who have started really well in the league, really need to improve on for the next couple of games.
Yeah, Marc McHugh alluded to that. He said, look, he'd have taken 4 points from a possible 6 at the start of the campaign. A couple of comments that was surprising, I suppose. He was frustrated definitely with that first half performance and spoke about, no more sort of what Kieran McGeaney spoke about in terms of that piggery around the middle third. Marc McHugh was speaking, he needs more bravery from his players. He wants guys to put their body on the line. Never a nice thing to hear from a coach if you're a player, and that type of thing is being questioned. That was a bit of a surprise, was it?
Yeah, I mean, look, Westmeath are coming off as a good start, as I mentioned. They were down to Ennis and got a win against Clare, and Clare are a very, very good side, I must say, and to go down there and get a win. So Westmeath are coming off the back, a couple of wins. I think it's no harm for that comment to come, if I'm honest, and I think the players that are there will rebound off that, and hopefully they can get some bounce back from that, because Westmeath have a couple of tough games coming up. They've yet to play Wexford, Limerick and Meath, and as you can see on the table, they're all the key teams that are around them. So there's a lot still at stake. In Division 3, we see Down, you'd expect them to go through at this stage, but for those teams that are chasing, there's still a lot at stake.
That was a big win from Limerick as well yesterday, wasn't it? That Wexford had got off to a really fast start, but that win nearly opens the division up a bit and gives Westmeath an opportunity, nearly a bit of breathing space that they can pick up a couple of wins and try and get promoted.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose personally I was probably surprised at how Wexford have started this year, and they started really strongly. Limerick, coming off the back of the Tailteann Cup, probably didn't get the same start this year as you would have expected from a bounce from that. But look, fair credit to them. They bounced back, they got that win. last minute score, just getting them across the line. So maybe that's what they just need for a little bit of momentum. And I think that's the beauty of the league. We talk about Derry, we talk about other teams. There's there's that midpoint of the league. You get that momentum coming into the last few games, and the fixtures right through, you can find yourself, in the chase for promotion.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating across all the divisions, but Division 2 and 3 in particular, it's so tight and the margins are so small. But Westmeath, I'm sure, will bounce back, John. We'll keep an eye on them over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you in person again. We'll let you get back to work there, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
And with that, we'll move on to Division 4 quickly. So we had a win for Usheen McConville's Wicklow on the road down in Waterford. Big win for Leitrim over in London. Barry McNulty was the star of the show. 6 2-pointers. That's some going. You take that to fire Leitrim to win over in London. Antrim coming up short against Longford. And the other side, Carlow, top of the table, 3 from 3. They had a battle against Tipperary, but they came out on top by 3 points yesterday and put themselves in pole position for promotion. But looking ahead to wildcard picks, we do this every week. Looking ahead to this weekend's action, it's back-to-back. The guys have had their break. If you're looking ahead to this weekend, what's maybe an upset you expect to see, Marc, on your side across the divisions?
We were talking about this off air. I think Mayo are going to Monaghan, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, Monaghan need a big reaction now from I suppose, the start of the National League. 3 games in, no point on the board. But they have quality. And, we've seen Bannigan. I think he's been very good since he's gone in there as manager. He's got a good tune out of him. But obviously, as I say, slow start to the year. So I just identify this as a huge battle for them. But
Back to the wall stuff.
Back to the wall stuff. But in saying that, Mayo, Andy will be giving them a crack of the whip as well because they lost, I suppose, so poorly, to Donegal. So I think it's going to be a right battle next weekend, and it's hard to know which way it's going to go. But I do expect a war of attrition. I expect Monaghan to really come out and fight for their lives.
Monaghan to pick up the points.
So look, maybe a Monaghan victory.
Patrick, on your side, what's the big upset this weekend?
I'm going to go for a Division 2 game, and it's not anything to do with Donegal Tyrone, but Louth at home to Tyrone, I think.
Gavin Devlin needs
Gavin Devlin has a bit of an insight there into the Tyrone boys. I don't think Tyrone would have learned anything from that game yesterday. It was like a training match against Cavan. But Louth, back to the wall. They don't want to go to that game against Cavan. Winner takes all to stay up. So I would say Louth could be eyeing that one up. So that's my pick.
Are Louth still? Do we get a sense there's still a little bit of a hangover from that incredible scenes last year winning the Leinster Championship? They haven't really kicked on since that.
No, but it's about building, and I think Gavin Devlin has gone in there. He knows these players. Peter Dooley's in the backroom team. Peter has been there for 4 or 5 years now. Excellent coach as well. And I think the players are happy that Gavin stepped into that role with Peter. And it's about building. It's about, last year was a great year. How do you repeat that? And we see them going toe-to-toe with Meath again the weekend. So I think I agree with Paddy. I think that's going to be a great battle this weekend.
We see a big performance from Gavin Devlin's Louth and the Leinster champions. Well, moving on to competition time as always. This weekend it is Allianz hurling and football, so there's plenty of action across the country. And as always, we have 2 tickets up for grabs. All you have to do, leave a comment under our YouTube, Facebook or Twitter. And Heslin in Friday's preview show will announce the winners if you want to go along and see your county of choice this weekend. So make sure to leave a comment.
Yeah.
I'm just in my ear, lads. We're ahead of schedule because unfortunately Joe Murphy, there are technical issues. He won't be able to join us this week.
He needs to go up to the Farmer's Journal.
Good Wi-Fi. Taking all the Wi-Fi from the Midlands. We'll have Joe next week. We will get him back on to talk Carlo's brilliant start to the season. So a little less serious now. We have the buzzer blitz. Paddy, it's your debut. 30 seconds.
These are working.
These questions have been very difficult now the last few weeks, so the producers have made it really easy. Marc, you had a howler the first week you were on. So the rules, as you know, if you're tuning in every week, there's 30 seconds. First man on the buzzer gets to give his answer, and if you get it wrong, it will pass to your rival. We should get a few of these. Anyway, Marc, you have one point on the board. Haven't been on about 4 times. Paddy, it's your debut, so you can catch up.
Did I not get 2? I thought
no,
I was 2
there's
points.
even question we'll even have 1. The producers are telling me. Anyway, question 1, okay? Hands on the buzzers. I actually gave you the answers to this. How many 2-pointers did Barry McNulty kick for...
Not alone that he kicked 6 2-pointers, but he came on at half time. So he got man of the match having come on at
Did
half
somebody
time.
give this man this script beforehand? That is correct, Mark. 6 2-pointers for Barry McNulty against Leitrim. Second question, who is currently sitting top of Division 3? Patrick.
Wexford.
Jesus Christ.
Carlo.
Arlo.
No, Division 3.
Down, yeah.
Paddy, I'll give that to you. Let you off the
See,
hook
this is the
there.
crack.
Literally talked about it 35 seconds ago. Question 3. This is... I can't believe this is right. What number of seasons will this be for Galway's Paul Conroy? Paddy.
18.
Close, but it's not.
17.
Incorrect. It's 19. 19 seasons.
Jeez, that's
for Paul
impressive.
Conroy. Incredible. How many goals have Armagh conceded in the opening 3 games? They haven't scored any, but how many have they conceded?
9.
Way off. Paddy. It's less.
5.
It's more. 6. Jesus Christ. Annie, we need to make these questions easier next week for these two. Who scored Dublin's only goal on Saturday night against Monaghan? Debutant. Oh, jeez.
Joey the Lips.
Joey.
What's his actual name?
God, I forgot.
Again, we watched this clip 40 seconds ago. The answer is Joe Quigley from
Quigley.
Kilmacud Crokes. I'm not
Good
giving
name,
either of that.
but he's good.
This was an interesting one. Question 6. Who is the new addition to Pádraig Joyce's backroom team? And he made his television debut last night as well. Paddy.
Ray McGalligan.
That is correct. And room for one more question. How many players has Ger Brennan said he has tried out so far? Closest answer wins
In the squad.
in the squad. Mark.
Ballpark.
Closest wins.
45.
Way more than that. Is this definitely right? Annie, the producers are being called in here.
60.
It's closer. 164?
What?
Nah, no.
Ah,
I
come
must
on,
be the
Eddie.
165th guy on that panel. Yeah, so 1 each there, Mark. Terrible. Paddy, it's your first go, so we'll get you back. So, Mark, you're on 2 points now. Congratulations. Division 3, lads. How in God's name you didn't get that one right?
Yeah, I'm disappointed not remembering Joe Quigley's name now. Good goal.
Anyway, as always, that's all we've time for, guys. So thanks to John for joining us. Joe Murphy, we will catch up with him again in the next couple of weeks. And to our 2 friends, Mark, back out to the airport, over and home to Kerry. Paddy, back to work. Thanks a million for joining us, as
Paddy.
always.
Cheers, lads.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in. Schools are off, but if you're on your work break, thanks for joining us. And make sure to tune in on Friday for Friday's preview show with Aisling. Thanks, and see you then.
Yeah, enjoy the view.